Hello everyone, welcome to the Icehouse podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today we have Luke Nutting, who is the founder and managing director of Lightforce on the podcast. He is an owner-manager program alumni, has been to our OMX programs as well, and a great part of the Icehouse alumni community. So thanks, Luke, for joining us.
Thanks, Bryar. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So we're going to jump straight into it. Explain your business to our listeners and your journey of becoming a business owner.
Okay, so I set Lightforce up in 2013. I was originally started out as an electrician. The business quickly evolved from your average electrical business down the solar path, and we've now moved to a fully end-to-end solar business. So we're everything from lead generation, sales, installation, marketing, engineers, everything's under one roof. And we've sort of grown our nationwide footprint over the last 12 months, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's fully integrated. So not only are we putting the solar system on, we're trading the power, and we're just working on building our own generation at the moment as well, and the likes of solar farms.
Wow. Yeah,
that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's awesome. How big's the team now?
I think we are 85-ish at the moment, but we've got another 5 starting in the next 2 weeks. So generally onboarding sort of 3 to 5 people a month at the moment.
Wow, that is some full-on growth happening right now, which we'll get to a bit later. But that's awesome. That's so cool, and cool to sort of see an opportunity, I guess, in solar power and shift from general electrician, which is cool. So why solar power? What was the first step that you took to transform your business into the solar focus that it now has?
We started installing for other companies that were in the solar space back sort of 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And it just really fascinated me at the time, and the technology behind it. And I knew it was a space that we wanted to get into. And coming from the UK, and I'd spent a couple of years in Australia before moving to New Zealand, it was imminent that solar was going to take off in New Zealand. It was just about when.
Yeah.
We're pretty far behind the rest of the world when it comes to solar. We've only got 1.6% market penetration, so there's massive growth to come. And I suppose it's just for me, it's the technology behind it is a fascinating thing, and the tech disruption. It's like when the mobile phone came, and we're sort of going to see that with the EVs now, and that's what's happening in the energy space. So it's all just about levelized cost of energy. So the existing energy will slowly start going up in price, whereas renewables is coming down in price, and then they hit that the point where they cross over, and that's really when it really starts to take off. So we're thinking sort of next year is tipping point in New Zealand. So it's pretty exciting times. We're just getting ready for that time, really.
Yeah, because I'm sure cost would probably be the main thing that's held people back in the past, right? So once it hits that same level, it's just going to boom. Is that the thinking?
Yeah, so cost is coming down, but also, I mean, it's not just cost anymore. I suppose definitely in the commercial market, it's sustainability is front of mind.
Yeah, totally.
I actually think that's a key driver over cost now commercially, especially from your international sort of blue chip tenants like the likes of L'Oreal. We just finished a system on the L'Oreal building.
Cool.
And their mandate is that they've got to be 100% renewable by 2030.
Awesome.
That was a pretty cool project to be involved in.
That's cool to hear, actually, that the that society's shifting a little bit, and you know, what's important to them now is that sustainability factor in the environment, which is where we all need to head. So it's cool that you're playing a massive part in that, which is awesome. So how does solar power work, and what are some of the benefits of it?
So I suppose when we explain it to a customer in sort of layman terms, if you don't know anything about it, it's essentially, so instead of buying your energy from one centralized source like we do at the moment, and you know, it's generated in one spot and then it's pushed one way down a line and you buy the energy, you're essentially taking part of that generation plant and putting it onto your roof. So if you consume 1,000 kilowatt hours of energy a month and you put a system on your roof that can generate 500 units, then you're only buying 500 from the grid and you're producing 500 on site. So it's like putting a mini generation plant on your roof, and you're decentralizing the generation sources. So we all become generators. Benefits are obviously cost savings. So it's cheaper to self-generate than to buy from a centralized generation source. It takes pressure off the network. The infrastructure in New Zealand is tired, and you know, there's a lot of work to be done on the network if we are going to keep up with the growth that's happening in New Zealand from a, you know, immigration point of view and an EV point of view and a housing shortage point of view. You know, the infrastructure's not up to that sort of demand. So when you put a system on your roof, it takes the stress off having to draw on the network. So that's a massive factor. Yeah. And then the other factor is obviously, you know, we're not firing up the coal plants. We're importing more coal than we've ever imported at the moment. And, you know, the renewable piece is obviously, that's a huge factor right now, is actually trying to get our renewable makeup to, you know, 100%. We've gone backwards a little bit over the last year or two.
Yeah, those are massive benefits. That's awesome. So we've talked about it right at the start, but you've had some really significant growth in the last few years and probably the last 12 months, you know, in particular. What is one lesson that you've learned from your rapid growth, and how do you scale your growth? Do you have sort of a growth plan?
Yeah, we have a growth plan. So I suppose it's, for us, there's a stage, I think, up to, it's hard to get to the $10 million revenue mark is really tough. It's, you know, you're trying to work out what's the formula, who do we need, you try not to spend any money because cash flow's tight. And then you find the formula, and then you just put more people in and it grows from there. So I suppose for us, it was getting people to buy into the vision and the why we're doing what we're doing. Once they buy into that and everyone believes where we're going, and you've got the right culture, it naturally, as it scales, it actually becomes a lot easier with scale. So now we believe we've got the formula, and we just, you know, every time we open a branch, we know what to do. We know, you know, this many vans, this many people, and this is what will happen. We look at market data, and Icehouse has got a lot to thank for that. You know, since I did the OMP in 2017, and since finishing, I've just under 100% revenue growth every year, and this year will probably be 300 to 400% revenue growth. So wow,
that's awesome. That's so cool. Are there any lessons you've taken from that growth?
Yep. So don't think you can do it all yourself, especially in the early stage. You know, when I did the OMP, I don't even think we had 10 staff at the time. And someone can always do it better than you. So, you know, getting that right people on the bus so that, you know, you've got the right person in finance, right person in marketing, and letting go is a big thing for a founder. You know, the founder wants to hold on to everything. They're generally control freaks, and they want to be across absolutely everything, which good and bad, because it puts a handbrake on the growth. So I think letting go and just letting someone else, giving them free rein to go for it would be my advice.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. That's really cool. Nice. So sort of heading into, the Icehouse experience, how did you first hear of the Icehouse and the Owner Manager program?
Well, a good friend of mine, Gareth, is actually, I think he's still there. So he was actually pestering me for about 2 years prior to me. Eventually, he just drove round to the house with the forms and said, right, you're doing it. And yeah, I think that was the first time I'd heard of the Icehouse. And, since then we've never looked back. I go to the OMX, as you know, every year. I've put a couple of people through LDP. I've actually got a CAT OMX. CXO is doing OMP in a month's time.
Awesome. Yeah,
So
really cool.
I'm actually super excited about that, because when I did it, it was so overwhelming and there was so much for me to learn. And I couldn't actually execute on a lot of it because I didn't have the resource in behind me. But now we've got the resource. I'm quite excited to execute on anything that Kat learns the moment she comes back, which will be pretty cool.
Yeah, totally. And just the alignment that comes when sort of key team and business partners jump on the program at different times, because the language is the same. That's what I sort of tend to hear from people, is you're speaking the same language, you fully get it, and you can just sort of run with what you've learned together, which is really cool. But yeah, I was laughing because the amount of times I've done this podcast and I've heard Gareth just wouldn't leave me alone. That's why I went on it. Seriously, it's great. But anyway, that's awesome. Would love you to sort of sum up your Owner Manager program experience. How did you find it?
I suppose life-changing. Gives you the tools and the skills, and not only that, some friendships that lifelong friendships now that have all come out of the Icehouse. And it might not be on the course, but generally once you've done a course, then it leads to a sort of the Icehouse cult where there's something, always is a link back there. And whether it's a day course that you go on or you send someone on knowing your numbers, so many and the thing with the Icehouse is everyone that's on the courses are trying to improve their business. They've got the mindset that's people that you want to hang out with, people that want to grow, people that want to do awesome stuff. So you get connected with some real cool people, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. And you keep in touch even after the program, which I think is so valuable, to be able to keep those relationships and connections going, which is awesome. Cool. I really like this next question. What changes did you implement into your business, but also your lifestyle, since doing the program?
So immediate changes was business plan, growth plan, setting goals. And I mean, it's been rapid growth. As I said before, we had about 10 staff coming out of the Icehouse to now sort of over 80. So really have just been focused on getting the systems and processes in place, which we didn't really have any systems and processes back then. And I suppose it's just been a lot of hard work since then. And I sort of neglected the resilience piece, which we did touch on in the Icehouse, but I'm only really bringing that in now. There's a big focus of mine right now is well-being and resilience, because you can only work so hard for so long. And it's just not sustainable. So that's a big focus right now for myself.
Awesome. That's awesome to hear. Yeah, it's so hard to balance both, right? Especially when you go through massive growth like you have since the program. Yeah, I can imagine that it would be so easy to sort of put well-being and resilience on the back burner a bit while you sort of charge forward, but it's important to stop at some point and implement it in. So good to hear.
So there's been a lot of, well, a couple of years of 7 days, leave the office at midnight, 1 o'clock, back in here for 6. Doing anything we've got to do just to make it work, but that's, those days are gone now.
Yeah, massive achievements. What learnings, if any, did you take from others in your group? So the people that you actually did the program with?
Well, I mean, there's so many. At the time for me, it was, I think as I said before, it was a bit overwhelming. I was the smallest company in the whole group. So less than 10 staff. I don't even actually think we qualified to be on the course, to be honest. So for me to be able to sit and listen to stories of, businesses with a couple of hundred staff, and some of them were 100 mil plus revenue, there's so much for me to learn that, it's pretty amazing that now, I'm pretty close friends with a lot of these people. I can pick up the phone and give them a call and ask them, hey, have you, what do you recommend here? Get some advice. And, that sort of advice it's invaluable, really.
Yeah, that's awesome. And links really nicely with the next question, which is, what are the benefits of being involved in the business community? I'm guessing just that ability, right, to give people a call when you need to.
Yeah, and that's the connections piece is huge. I think, a couple of things that have come out from the Icehouse. So Andy Hamilton, who was CEO, is actually chair of our board.
Awesome.
And another guy that was actually on my OMP course is in our marketing team.
Oh, cool.
And he's been with us for the last 18 months. So just having those connections, like with Andy Andy knows a lot of people, as you know, and being able to reach out to the people who can connect you with someone that you need or something that you need is, it's pretty valuable.
Yeah, and Andy's such a great connector. It's just like I don't know, second sense for him that he can sort of just, put out a LinkedIn post and away you go, right? It's awesome.
Definitely Andy's superpower.
Yeah, it is definitely his superpower. That's great. What's been the biggest adjustment for you in work, in business since COVID? And is there anything you've learned from the year that was 2020 that you've taken into this year?
I think the biggest thing right now is cash isn't king, it's stock is king.
Wow.
So for us, we just are ordering double the stock we need, because shipping is, we sort of give up actually looking at where the containers are. We used to, be tracking them, and now it's slowly getting better, but at some point we had them going halfway around the world, turning around and going back to China. And
wow.
So I think just making sure you've got, for us, stock on hand, because if you can't put systems on roofs, then the business grinds to a halt. So I think that's the biggest learning for us, is just the shipping and the logistics is it's caused us some pretty big headaches over the last 12 months. So we're sitting quite nicely at the moment. We've got warehouses all around the country holding a lot of stock. We're trying to hold 3 months worth of stock in every warehouse as a sort of contingency.
Awesome. It's good to touch on. Supply chain has just been such a massive thing for pretty much most business owners that I know I've talked to in the last year. It's just been massive, how hard it's been, really. So good learnings. Tell us a bit about Lightforce's community work. I think this is really interesting. So the charity installs, the artist series, the community workshops, how did this all come about, and why is it important to you guys?
So our vision is to empower a lighter, brighter future. So
Great.
lighter with our impact on the environment, and Bryar on the impact on the communities we operate in throughout New Zealand. So this piece is owned by Cat, and I suppose, you know, it all comes back to our vision and our values. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's a big piece for us is to doing good and helping others. It's, you know, if you've got the opportunity to do it, and, you know, changing other people's lives and helping is pretty rewarding and fulfilling. So it's not all about just trying to, you know, grow a big business and, you know, make money. So I think it's a pretty key thing that we instill into everyone when they come into the business and try and, you know, get into the culture. We allow everyone to take 2 days off paid per year to go and work with a charity that they choose. And with our charity installs, you know, people are giving up their time on the weekends to go and install systems on charities. So it's a big thing for us, and it's been pretty rewarding to see some of the charities we've helped over the last sort of 12 months.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's so cool, and love how the work that you guys do is so aligned to your core operations as well. You know, it's not sort of random. It's really aligned to what you guys do as a company. So awesome, and cool morale booster for the for the staff as well, and for the team, and cool team building opportunities. So win-win-win for everyone involved. Nice. What piece of advice would you tell an owner manager of a small, medium-sized company in New Zealand right now? It's quite a big question, isn't it?
I think setting goals is pretty critical. If you don't have any goals and you haven't got a plan, you're essentially, you know, you've got no targets, you've got nothing to work towards, and it's really hard to know where you're going if you don't actually know where you're going.
Yeah, wow.
You know, if you set a goal and you get everyone in the business across the goal, you know, I mean, you will hit it. And you will get there, but if none of the staff know where you're going, there's no goals, there's no vision, you know, you're sort of just meandering along. And I mean, you probably will be growing because, you know, there's a lot of work in New Zealand right now, but I think those are the key things. And I think hard work at the start, you know, to really get ahead, you know, it is tough at the start. You've got to put in the hours, and everyone thinks that, oh, you go and set up your own business to have a cruisy life and work less hours, but yeah, that's generally not the case in the first few years.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, great advice. And our last question is, what does the future look like for Lightforce?
The future's bright for Lightforce. It's pretty exciting to think where we're going to be in sort of 3, 5, 7, 10 years. For us, I mean, we just want to be leading the solar revolution. So, you know, a big focus on solar farms and just building our community of generators and changing the way we sort of generate and trade power. So we've got some really exciting projects on the go around community energy storage, and we're actually building a training academy as well, which is a huge thing for us. Learning and development is massive, so we encourage all of our staff to always be trying to climb the ladder, always be trying to learn.
Great.
The training academy, which is going to be built in the next couple of weeks, will not only teach people how to install, but teach people, you know, about renewables, about where energy comes from, how it's created, about where food comes from, how it's created. We're working with low decile schools and teaching them that food doesn't actually come from the dairy.
Yeah, great.
Lots of workshops, and, you know, it's all pretty exciting on that side of the business, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's so exciting. And I love that lean into the education of solar power, because I think once people understand what it is, how it works, what the benefits are, they'll definitely want to jump in behind it and get on board, which is such a good step. So awesome. Like, that is exciting future. ahead. I can't wait to see all that you and the team at Lightforce do. That's awesome. So thank you so much, Luke, for being on the podcast, sharing your story and inspiring other business owners that are listening.
That's all good. Thank you. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I just want to thank the Icehouse again for the awesome work you guys do. And anyone that's listening, go and sign yourself up to the OMP, because that's the best thing you'll ever do.